Alright, welcome to a Jonathan Carmona video. Now this one is my take on this whole Star Wars Galactic Cruiser thing. And I wanted to do this right away, but I had to wait for this to come in because I couldn't get my camera here. Couldn't get the audio to work anymore. It's funny because it worked when I started making my video back on the day I wanted to and just quit on me. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Right now, just for the purposes of my YouTube channel, I wanted to have this in the archive, in the historical record, that hey, I cared about this, and here are my thoughts. And who knows, maybe when it goes out, people will love the ideas, because my goodness, I think I came up with some pretty cool ideas, and I just did it on the fly. I don't know why the Disney board, team, whatever it is, are so limited in their imagination when it comes to this stuff. So, as you saw with the opening picture, we're talking about the Galactic Starcruiser, which within the time of me making this video, it's been a couple weeks since they've released their big trailer that's supposed to promote this thing that costs thousands of dollars. And the trailer does not encourage or get people excited for what's going on. In fact, it looks pretty cheap. So let's get right into it. This here is the entrance that they have made. And I'm sure the Disney team thinks it's all nice and all, but Star Wars nerds like me, we see this and we're like, that's not Star Wars. Like, the closest thing it might resemble would be a vague semblance to the the back door to the power generator base in episode 6. But it's not that. It's clearly not that. And they even said, and here's another picture, the Imagineers even said, well, based on a video of a guy who did a review, an early review on this place, that they wanted that to look like some kind of spaceport, so that you're coming to a human spaceport to launch off into space. And okay, fine. I mean, that's not the worst idea, but why not Star Wars? Just make it a Star Wars thing. It ought to be, I don't know, entrance to the Hoth base. That would have been smart, because then you're going right underground, and you can build your facility underground. That just, there's a lot of benefits to building this kind of thing underground, I think. Especially with having just maybe the starship building itself be something that's up, out of the ground. Anyways, just, this is not the best idea, but this is just a sign of things to come. They take a great concept, because this concept of having an immersive, what's supposed to be immersive Star Wars experience, where you get to live your own Star Wars story, that's an incredible idea. That's an amazing idea. I had thought that this would be a good idea going way back, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. There's lots of people that have thought this. And I guess we can give them a thumbs up for trying, but it's a failure. So far, it's a failure. Unless they do some serious changes, and if they use some of the ideas I have on the list here, I'm going to get to, yeah, that would be so much better. So let's look at the bridge here. A lot of people have complaints about the bridge. I don't personally think it's the worst thing that they've designed. It definitely doesn't look like traditional Star Wars. Like, if they're trying to make it look new Star Wars, okay. Again, it's not the worst thing, and my favorite thing, let's see if yeah, there it is, the buttons. I do like that button. That's the one thing where I saw that, I was like, oh, that's cool. I like this. Now, how they all work, I don't know. In a couple of the videos specifically, there was one video where they focused on the lightsaber training, and the girl who's demonstrating for whatever executive, in that video they wore masks. That so bothered me. It's stupid. Like, why are you wearing the masks? Don't they know they don't work? Of course not. Anyways, but in that video they're pushing buttons, and it didn't appear, except for the lights coming on and off, which kids will appreciate that, but it's also gonna be like, what's this do? What's this do? The buttons ought to do something. That I wouldn't think that would be so hard to do, especially with Disney. Come on. This is where you should have put some of the money. Each button should do something, and whether it's on the screen or something in the room. I have a fear that the button panel is simply a light show. And like I already said, I like how it looks, but it should be more than a light show. Anyways, the next problem that I saw was this hallway. I'm not the only one who saw this. This was pointed out by several people. It's like, don't you know how to do Star Wars hallways? That's how you do Star Wars hallways. Like this. To be fair, in one of the other video clips that I saw from one of the guys that did a early experience, I guess, they had a quick clip that had something like this hallway that I just put on here, which this is from the Blockade Runner. This is what you would have seen episode 4 right off at the beginning, and then see again eventually in episode 3, and then in Rogue One. This is a Star Wars hallway. Classic Star Wars hallway, because it's the first one you see. It's the oldest one, as far as, design comes up with. I don't know why in the hotel they didn't think of doing something like this. Like, you could have done any spaceship. It's okay. I don't mind the walls. The display there's cool. The doorways are nice. But the ceiling does give away. It's like, this is a simple Earth hotel, cheap, flat ceilings. Like, the only thing cool about the ceiling is the light on the edge. That is cool. But flat ceilings in a spaceship, come on. It would have been so easy to just put something up there. Not stickers, but, something that looked a little less cheap. Because this does look cheap. That is for sure. All right, so let's get into some of the things that I thought of. Again, originally when the video released, the very next day, like overnight, these are the thoughts that I had. So, I agree it should be a Star Cruise style simulation ride, but I have a specific note here that you ought to make sure that it's a simulator ride to the event, to the place. So I've drawn up a little map here, and I have lines on the back. Oh well. The experience, the Galactic Starcruiser should have been in 3 main areas. One, the entry area, and I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I guess you can. But the entry area, and I have it drawn down here, should be one area, one venue, and I just have a few scribbles here at the edge of it. But this ought to be a whole experience in itself. You're checking into, this is your entrance into this Star Wars world. So this ought to be a whole experience here. And a smart design, Imagineering creation would have made this like you build it so that it's like check-in at an airport, but this is for Star Wars. It's for space, so you could have cast members in costume and everything here, and then you could have different rooms and have set up so you have different experiences each time you come, or you have the option of experiencing them. Like you could have interrogation rooms over here, a prison cell, maybe you could escape from it. You could do some really fun stuff with just the entrance here. And of course you could also have just a basic entrance where you get to go through, like that might be something you do. You have different themes. Like one of the days when you start your experience, it's just a nice Star Wars cruise experience. You have nice crew and aliens and everything checking you in, getting your baggage and all that stuff. And they ought to take your baggage too. You shouldn't be carrying your baggage, and they ought to take your baggage and place it in your rooms. But one of the other experiences could be an Imperial experience, and this is where they failed. This is where Disney Star Wars just don't get it. It's like, new Star Wars, it's trash. You guys ruined it. You had something with episode 7. You didn't carry through with episode 8 because you gave it to a new director he's got amazing skill, but he did his own thing. He didn't continue the story. He did his own thing, and that drove it into the ground. Then episode 9. Yeah, we don't talk about episode 9. So, for most of us Star Wars fans who've been with this stuff since the original stuff going on, this is an encyclopedia here in case you didn't miss that 3-volume set. Oh, it fell down. 3-volume set. Ah. But you need to cooperate with me. We're doing a video, don't you know? Yeah, see, even the original Star Wars books are disappointed. So, Disney Star Wars has been doing it wrong, focusing on the new stuff. Yes, Rey and Finn are pretty awesome characters, but when they're set in a story that you can't get behind, it's just like, well, that's not fair to those actors. You gave them Star Wars, but then you gave them Disney Star Wars. Anyways, they should have went classic Star Wars. So this event here should have the option of being Imperial. And my goodness, you could have some really cool characters show up, like Darth Vader. So you could have a Star Wars entrance. I'm sorry, an Imperial Star Wars entrance. That could be one of the options. Another one could be a Rebel Star Wars entrance. You could do a Smuggler's entrance. So this venue here, the entryway, could be a whole different experience each time, or at least 4 or 5 different experiences, depending on how you set it up. So the next thing here I have drawn here is it would actually be a physical simulator ride. Yeah, you have screens a nice screen display with the windows, just like Star Tours has. And that's what this should have been. This should have been the Star Tours thing. This would be the pod that takes you to your ship. And it should be, and I have it drawn here, it's like it should actually physically move to allow for the movement so it feels real. This is immersion. So anyways, and I don't know, maybe that might be one of the highlights of what they currently have, because you do get into a pod I've briefly seen that takes you to your ship. I don't know if they have the whole simulator thing, because again, it seems like they're going really cheap. So I think all they do is put stuff on the screens, maybe some noise. I don't know. Maybe if they put a little money into it, it vibrates or something. So that's okay if they did that. But it ought to be this. It ought to be the Star Tours physical shit movement, a whole experience. It's just like doing a simulator ride to your event. That should be too easy. Okay, and I keep putting my head off screen. Anyways, then you go into the main ship, and I have this whole diagram set up here. This ought to be what they do. You start here with the entrance, and this could be an alternate exit, and that's another idea I'll discuss at the end. But even the entryway ought to be a room that can physically move. That way, when you load passengers on, you can have them all stop and say, hey, let's look out the window as we depart. And then the whole room physically would move and give that immersive feeling. Oh, wow, we're in a ship that's taking off. It makes, you just add to the fun and the experience. Again, keyword immersion. All right, so let's move on. My list here, immigration security, experience at port, variety of storyline options. I just discussed that. Boarding a starship, pulling away experience, just discussed that. Clothing issue, costume creation, or makeup masks as an option. This is the $6,000 experience right here. You get a nice costume. Either A, you could have the option of bringing your own, but B, and this ought to be what they really like try and push, nice, realistic looking costumes. And maybe you pay a couple extra $100 to take the costume home. That's fine. But for the experience, for thousands of dollars, you ought to have a costume that's provided for you. And this should strongly encourage. And you could have two options. You could have the simplistic option like, okay, well, if you don't really want to dress up much, here's a nice polo and pant combination, or maybe a vest or something that you can wear over your normal clothes if you really don't want to get it like too much into it. Because some people are like that. They want to experience it, but they don't want to like necessarily LARP. But most people doing this are probably going to want to do it, especially if everybody's doing it. And if these cast members in awesome makeup and costume, they're going to want to fit in. That's also a normal human thing. So you ought to provide the costume, and they ought to have the option. Maybe this would be... See, if you do this smart, if this was designed right, people don't have a problem paying a little extra for certain things. You could have a pay extra option here where, if it costs that much to do the whole mask and makeup creation. And these ought to be the types of masks where, most of it's already ready to go. The only kind of makeup you'd have to do is where it seamlessly attaches to your face, and maybe you do your face and your hands with the color. And it'd be nice if it was something that there's no problem keeping it on when you go to sleep that night. That might make it hard, whatever. There might be, you need to have the option to get it off. I don't know. Again, this would be where the Disney Imagineers ought to go through this process and like figure it out. Like, how do we do all this? Because some people, you just put on a cool mask and because of the type of alien, that's it. You get to be an alien for the ride. But obviously, there's plenty of human characters, and you can be your own human character. That's not a problem. All right, so orientation room. This could be another big part of what should be part of the experience. After you're dressed up, so after you have fully integrated into this immersive experience, this ought to be what you go to, a room like this that could be set up right there on your Galactic Starcruiser. And they could honestly remake this room, and I bet Disney could do this. I bet they could do the holographic thing in the middle. Whether or not they have to set up like, glass panels, like a inverted glass cone over, so they can put the projection on the inside. However they have to do it, they ought to do a holographic display here. Like, this is the perfect place to do it. And that's assuming we don't already have, or Disney doesn't already have the technology to just display something holographic looking. Because again, we've seen stuff now. We've seen that display they did in Seattle this last New Year's, the Seattle Space Needle. That's what it's called, yeah. The light show on the tower, oh my goodness. Come on. Disney, you can do that. This would be where you do that, in this room here. And you have your whole holoprojection thing set up in the middle of the room. You'd so blow Disney fans away. If they get to sit in this room in character with all the other people in character, you could even have a Mon Calamari come out and be the orientation person. Like, that would just put you in the mood. That, or if you have your star captain look something like Mon Mothma instead of this Captain Karen that they put out. Like, come on, guys. Think it through. If you want to take advantage of the nostalgia, harken back to what exists. Like, this is too perfect. It's a briefing room. We all know this. It's in one of the, it's an exciting conclusion. Or should have been the conclusion. For Star Wars. It's right here. Anyways, all right. So, briefing room. You can have fun with that. And then from there, the specific idea I have written down, I guess I should bring my list back, shouldn't I? Having a protocol droid escort you to the bedroom suite. And this should be something that's very doable because it's a very basic action, though it ought to have some built-in audio interaction. If you don't, just cheat and have somebody in another room who's in charge of the droid's communication skills and maybe even movement. So it's a drone. It's a robot controlled by someone else. But they don't have to know that in the experience. In the experience, they can, oh man, this is a droid. And it's interacting with them and responding to them live. And if you do protocol droid, then you can have the person talk, through protocol droid. If it's a R2 unit, then of course it just has to respond by beeps and everything, and then can take them to the rooms. But that would be a really neat way to get the person to the room. You could obviously do another cast member, but I just think this would be a really neat spot. This and the dining experience would be two specific spots where you could do interactions with droids that should be manageable with current technology, I would think. All right, so your bedroom. This is specifics on the bedroom. Do I have a picture of that? Let's see. Do I? No, I don't. Okay. Now, the bedroom that the Galactic Starcruiser currently has doesn't look bad at all. It doesn't. Some people are fussing about the small alcoves in the wall, but I'm pretty sure that's designed for kids, like if they want to sleep there. I don't think it's designed for adults. Who knows? They could obviously build, if they haven't already, large alcoves, which we saw in Star Wars for adults to fit in. But a regular bed is obviously just fine, especially since this is supposed to be a fancy galactic cruiser. But the rooms don't look that bad. There's some specifics that they ought to have built in, again, for a thousands of dollar immersive experience. One of the things that should have been part of the check-in orientation, especially since this is 2 days and this is something you plan ahead, so this is something people agree to, is you turn in your phone and tablets. You do not have those on this experience. They're technically available if an emergency comes up, and they would have that. That'd be part of the orientation. Explain, hey, if an emergency comes up, this is where you go to get your phone to make a call, whatever. But because it's an immersive experience, those things shouldn't be with you. In your room, the stuff you do for fun should be part of this experience. You should not have to escape. Now, yeah, some people, because of health needs or whatever, may need to do specific things in the room. That's fine. But as much as possible, the Disney Imagineers should design this experience to every detail to be fully immersive. Notice I keep using that word because that's the point. That's what you're paying for. You're supposed to be paying for. So in your rooms, you ought to have alternate clothing options based on the wardrobe, the costume you chose. And a lot of that can be planned beforehand. Like when you sign up online, you ought to have a whole list of, hey, what costume would you like to wear? And you choose it. That way they know ahead of time, hey, this is the costume we're going to give you and be helping you put on a wardrobe initially. And then here's the options to it. Like if it's a Jedi robe, maybe you could have different colored Jedi robes. Unless you're going with the, pure Jedi, and you're just using the same robe the whole time. You're not being extravagant. But if you're doing something else, if you're doing this ladies in some kind of fancy dress, she would have a second or a third dress ready in her bedroom. And of course, this would be a kind of option that hopefully you do without needing help, unless you want to go fancy. And you have the option of having a maid, a helper, an assistant come to your room in the morning to help you dress up. That's an option too. I don't think that should be something that costs more. Again, the wardrobe thing should be covered, but maybe that's something you could do. Like, hey, if you want to get one of these fancy costumes, then it's going to cost a little extra to have somebody or somebody's come and help you. Whatever. Extra costumes. That's the point. There should be a desk computer, a Star Wars desk computer, that is built into the room, and it should have something like a Star Wars internet. Now that would require building a whole new thing, unless you put like Disney.com or Wikipedia. It's just those things are kind of like our world, and if you want this to be immersive, it really ought to be something that's within the world. Like set up it as if you're going on the actual internet, however they call it, the web of Star Wars. You know, there, and I forget there's a term for it, intergalactic web. They had a term for it. Galactic web. I'm forgetting. It's been a while since I read the books. Any book. Anyways, that's what ought to be in the computer. Immersive Star Wars stuff. And there could be videos, all this stuff that's been pre-filmed and pre-made, that's all there that they could look at, like, you know, news reports, events that's happening, maybe some cool looking behind the scenes, well, not behind the scenes, but, you know, again, in the immersive Star Wars world, like behind the scenes of what happened when Luke went here or this person arrived or whatever. You could do this, the neatest stuff that could appear, and this is a special thing that you only get in this experience, so that just, I know kids will love it, but nerds would love it too. Just being in your room, getting to get on the computer and just explore what's there would be loads of fun. And then the window of the room, I'm just gesturing, the back end of the room, you know, they have a big window, and it does look as if they're going to have some kind of display out the window, but that ought to have an option. It ought to have its own little computer system set up so that you can have fun scanning the different ships that fly by out there. And it could even be a specific activity that's built in that, whether you use it for the rest of the 2-day experience or if it's just specific to right there in the room, that ought to be something that you can do there too. So not only does that provide 2 stations for 2 people in the room, and since the rooms seem to be designed for 4, that kind of works out good. You know, 1 kid here, 1 kid there, or 1 nerd here, 1 nerd there. So 2 specific activities that are built into the room. And a third one, and this is kind of too easy, have a TV, a nice TV built into the room, and it could have the option of playing, if you don't already have special immersive in-universe stuff, you know, designed to watch, which that could actually be very cool. You could have a lot of fun with that. You could also have all the Star Wars movies and TV shows available just as an automatic download data point. It's there. It's built in. You can pull up any of those. So it's not Disney Plus, because you're not having everything Disney, but just Star Wars. Just Disney Star Wars. And maybe that could be a unique little corner of Disney Plus that the Star Wars stuff is all there. Anyways. So these are 3 things that ought to be put into the room. The Disney computer, the window activity computer, and the TV with all the Star Wars material available, plus some possible new stuff that could be filmed specifically for this event, for this I'm losing words. What do you call it? Venue. This was venue. Okay, I'm going to switch screens to the next part of my list. Actually, I already started onto it. Okay. Protocol droid escorting you to lunch or dinner. That could be another option. Don't have to have that, because by this point, people should know where, especially with the orientation, people should know where stuff is on the ship. But still, being escorted to the lunch and dining hall could be a whole experience. And I'm not sure I'm getting the idea that room's kind of small. Like, this should have been one of the bigger rooms where you really went all out, because you're eating meals here. You know, you're going to be here 2-3 times a day, every day. So this ought to have been a very nice big thing. There should be plenty of table space for everybody to sit. You shouldn't, I mean, I don't know, maybe if the captain and some of the special characters were at a special table, you could pay to sit with them. But it shouldn't be and pay extra in this situation, except for the drinks, the alcohol. That, of course, that makes sense. All right, live entertainment while eating, that's perfect. You could have music and comedy skits that would be ready. Star Wars, immersive in world. That's one of the odd things about what they decided to do with, and I don't have a picture, with what they showed us at the trailer for the current Star Wars intergalactic thing. They showed us something that was cringe. Now, the lady, within context of what she was doing, the one dressed up as a Twi'lek, she sang beautifully. She obviously has amazing skills. She did what she was given perfectly. There's no problem with her. The problem is that Disney thought that whole design, that just doing that kind of song and her dancing around like that would entice people to come to spend thousands of dollars. Knuckleheads. It's like, if you simply had the band or a replication of the band, the Cantina band, that would have got Star Wars fans. I mean, because that's a fun song. That's Star Wars. But that's what ought to be in as for the music in the dining hall. Something that style. Anyways, knuckleheads. So, all the activities. I have this awesome list here of all the activities that could be done on board ship. And there's more. There's actually 2 or 3 that I've heard might be in the Galactic Starcruiser experience that do sound pretty decent. But I haven't heard of the rest of these, aside from maybe one. Obviously, ship exploration. That could always be a thing. When you have your free time, explore the ship. And the ship ought to have special rooms that you'd only find if you're exploring or if you talk with certain ship staff. And of course, you could have characters. Like if you did have, let's just go with what they have. If you did have Rey sneak on board the ship, if a certain group meets her, then she could take you to a thing and help you with some rebel experience. That would be cool. But again, this whole thing should have been set in the Imperial era because that's what everybody knows, that's what everybody loves, and that is what would make the most fun. Anyways, ship exploration, bridge orientation training, they do have that advertised, though it sounds like what they're trying to do is a little bit too hands-off. It should be more specific. It should be more rigid. It should be very, like, you immerse yourself in the experience. The captain comes on board. I mean, when you enter the bridge, the captain or first officer, whoever's there, can be like, all right, please come over here, like, via specific instructions, and you got to follow the instructions. And by going through that, you're going to have fun just going through it. And in a sense, that actually does make it easy. You're not pushing a whole lot onto the person to come up with, because you push too much stuff on people, especially introverts. They're going to get shy. They're not going to want to do something. And then you have these awkward moments because you put everything on the guests. No. You do everything. The Disney Imagineers, the design team for this Galactic Starcruiser, they need to design it out, lay it out specifically. You have a little wiggle room here and there where the person does choose, this option or that, or you're going to do this or this, or how do you respond to this? And based on that, everything should be choreographed carefully. That way you have fun and you would learn. You'd actually be trained for a future activity. Okay, gunner position could be very similar. Gunner position training. Of course, that you'd have the fun of actually shooting stuff. And it ought to be, well, there's several different ways you could do it. You could have that globe gunner thing that they climb into. That would be pretty cool. But you could also have them just sitting, off the side at their own computer station. There's just so many things there that could be done there. Starship, kitchen crew training. This would be one of those specific things that would gear towards those who are into cooking, who are into food and all of that. You could have an actual Star Wars kitchen. We know what those are supposed to look like. Some of the things that would be in it. And you could have specific meals. You could have a chef that's trained and who's good at making Star Wars stuff. And you could invent all kinds of other things that would be Star Wars-y. But anyways, you could have fun being in the kitchen, being trained in how to use the specific devices and how to make and prepare the foods. And you could even have it, when a certain thing is prepared, you do a good job, the chef says, look forward to having this on the side for dinner. So that could be a whole lot of fun. You could have art classes where they're painting specific Star Wars scenes, and that could be a really fun experience. Again, for those who love art, they've got cast costumed characters who are leading them through whatever the art class is, and they can really get involved. Like, you could, because I don't think there's anything necessarily, except for Sabine Wren and the Star Wars Rebels, there's not really that much of an artist going along. I actually just thought of something right there. You could have like a video clip that the artist plays for part of the class saying, a certain Admiral Thrawn is a very big art entrepreneur, and he's got something that he recorded, and you play a video. Oh my goodness. You could have a lot of fun with these things within the immersive Star Wars experience. Makeup classes, same thing there for those who want to. Clothing and tailor shop classes. Again, some people love sewing and putting clothing together and designing clothing. Like, you could have a lot of fun with that. Photography training. Now, the lifesaver training, obviously they have their version of it, which appears to be pretty lame. I don't know if there's more to it or if they're going to change it, but as it is, it looks ridiculous. So obviously, and everybody said this, if you had the whole blast visor thing that Luke wore, it's perfect. You set it up as a virtual reality experience. You could have done so much with that. and made it really fun. And it'd be something that, wow, lisp. It would be something that would be unique to this Starcruiser event. Like, you had to go here to experience this VR. That's what they should have done with lightsaber training. But another way, you could go the opposite way. You could go into the physical, realistic hand combat. You could have an actual Jedi there or Force user, but you have them there in the classroom, and it can be completely like training, like martial arts. You take it all very seriously, like a dojo. He steps in, and you get into whatever costume you need for the training session. You all sit down, and he goes through a few like Jedi meditation exercises to prepare you, and then you stand up and you practice movements, and you actually get trained in sword movements. That alone would not only be fun, but it would be realistic, it'd be authentic. Lightsaber training could have been so much more than whatever it is they're trying to do. Like, what they're trying to do would be fun for like 5 to 7 year olds, maybe 5 to 10 year olds, not for adults. Goodness gracious. Now, again, paying thousands of dollars. Like, this stuff, all this stuff I'm talking about, like this would be worth thousands of dollars. You bet. Not what they're currently showing us. I mean, goodness. The trailer showed us an entrance, because they made a point of showing the entrance to this thing, which is not even Star Wars. Then the bridge, which did look kind of cool, but based on other videos, it's like, all right, so you push buttons and lights turn on and off, and you can pull the switch and go to light speed. Bunch it. Yeah, it just, they have a cool room there, but it looks like they don't know how to use it. It looks kind of lame, to be honest. And then singing in a bar. It's not even a Star Wars song. Yeah, at least she was a nice costume, makeup. Yeah, just lame. Galaxy geography class. Again, the nerds, they would eat this stuff up. You could have a whole galaxy geography class where you go over certain planets. You could focus on one planet. Maybe you could focus on several. Just so many options. Again, that would be something where you have different classes set up for each time, every 2 days. Like, okay, there's this geography class set up for this set of days. And so that way it'd be one of those things. And you could do this with all these experiences. You could have options and variety for how it's done. That way they have reason to come again. And if they love the experience that much, they're going to want to come again and bring their friends. Galaxy culture class. Again, nerds love that stuff. You could get into the nerd detail. You could hire a nerd who already knows all this stuff and have them be one of the teachers of the class. Pod racing simulator. Oh my goodness. That would have been, this could be done a couple of ways. You could go the simple route and just have, like, the Starcruiser is equipped with a pod racing simulator. And it's something that's built in. It's still immersive, but it's built in the ship. Or it could be a stop that along the way, the Starcruiser allows passengers to leave ship and go pod racing. And you have a thing set up where they get into and exit the Starcruiser. So they get into another simulator and enjoy going down to a planet, and you have a different planet environment set up where they go to a place, and it's just a little experience, but it's specific to pod racing. And you could actually get down and go into the pod racer, and if you set it up correctly with the right screens and everything, and you could do it VR, especially if they have the helmet thing. Oh my goodness. Like, you could build such an amazing experience just with the pod racing, because some fans are all about that pod racing. Like, George may have made a few mistakes, and being the curator of Star Wars, he honestly didn't make a lot of them. There was a whole lot of amazing ideas, and pod racing is clearly one of them. I'm not even a big pod racer. I'm not. I would be fine if that scene wasn't in Star Wars Episode 1, but I get it. Loads of people love that stuff. I mean, hello, in real life we love racing. But anyways, the whole pod racing simulator experience could be really cool. Starfighter training, just like with the bridge and gunner training earlier, this could be one class that you do one day that has a really cool consequence or a result the next day. So you would get into one of their starfighters, and again, this could be done simulator ride. So you feel like you're really getting into a little ship that leaves the Galactic Starcruiser to fly around in space and shoot. Oh my goodness, you could have so much fun with that. Both with the training, because you could get excited. You have your mentor, and you see him in the other ships, and you could do it with several others. I don't have a list, but occasionally I talk as if I do have one. What in the world? Sorry. Starfighter training. that could be a really fun experience if it's designed well, with a simulator ride. And then you come back to it the next day. Okay. The last thing I have noted here is a Jedi Force meditation class. Like, this should be too easy. This would be one of the simplest things to do. Like, to be honest, it should be cheap. You have somebody who is a Jedi Master or a Force user master. Like, there's somebody who does a meditation class, and some people would eat this up. All you have to do is provide a class, and it's guided meditation in the class. And again, you could do this in several different ways, have several different trainers, several different sessions. But a Jedi Force meditation class, that would be so cool and very immersive. All right, I need to move on. My video is it over? I always forget the numbers. There it is. It's over a half hour. Dinner special stop, Alien Cantina destination, or it could be an operatic event. And that could be a destination option that could be built in for that first night, that the starship stops somewhere and you get off to go to a cantina or go to an opera. Again, that would require more of another structure thing that you build. But again, if this was to be $1,000 experience and you wanted to really make fans, they all want to come to this is how you do it. You build it such a big thing. Like, even though it's just the 2 days, maybe you go ahead and do it 3 days. This, you get to experience so many different things, or you have the option to, because that's the thing. You could choose, all right, what are you going to do? Are you going to go off ship to the opera, or are you going to stay on board? Because you could have the dinner on board as well. You could have both options available, but you could do something really cool there. And you could have an entire opera cast that does that play. You could even do that. You could have, and that could be something that's done in conjunction with, the Disney World Resort that's already set up. So all of those guests could be there, maybe in the lower platform, and you guys in costume, because you're taking part in the Galactic Starcruiser, you're up on the balcony or in special booths, and you're in costume, and you, not only are you enjoying the opera, but you add to it, because the other guests are like, oh man, look, these people in costume. Oh, my soul. That you could have done something really cool with that, Disney. One of the evening activities, it doesn't have to be evening. I guess it could be one of the activities, but I have it here as evening. This would be Astronomical Observatory. An evening in an astronomical observatory. And I guess what I'm thinking is one of the easier ways to do this is if it was an evening activity on a clear night in Florida. If you have the observatory room set up so like large sections of it do look out into the night sky, if that's a thing that's possible down there, because I know it's kind of in a suburban environment. But anyway, that doesn't have to be. You can build that completely immersive. But you can have an astronomical observatory, so you're looking at the starscape of the Star Wars galaxy and do a whole observatory experience. People like that stuff. They go to museums and science centers to do that. Why not do a Star Wars one? So that would be an example of what Disney could have done with their experiences. And hey, who knows? Maybe in the future, somebody, because I'm not the only one with these ideas, maybe somebody else will get some of these ideas and put them into the class. And hey, right now, currently as I'm writing this, like I said, I'm late to the game, but there's already been a whole lot of cancellations. We've had the second video released where you have the lady, she's in costume and makeup, and there's this like fake background. She holds up her phone to do her phone, like this, and hitting it to do the holographic thing. It's kind of funny when you notice that. I'm fine with that. And actually, I think her costume looks nice. But the background is lame. It's fake looking. It's like, couldn't you at least put a little more time and money into making that look more Star Wars? Like, I see they were trying. To me, you can tell they were trying to be Star Warsy, but it wasn't. And I should stop talking about that because I don't have a picture. You wouldn't even know what I'm referring to. But, well, for those who are watching this and do know, it's the second video release, and it was called a leak. And it has the alien in costume. I can't remember her name, but she's acting in Star Wars world as if she's talking about the Galactic Cruiser experience, kind of like a customer service information video or whatever. But yeah, the biggest thing on that video is that the background looks so cheap. I mean, some people have a problem with them doing the whole thing on a phone. It's like, why couldn't you just get a device? Build a Star Wars looking device. That's true. But, yeah, that's just, this is Disney Star Wars. All right, and so that would be a full day. I do have notes on a second day. Let's see, I need to get that page up here. There it is. Notes on a second day here. So day 2, I think they could do something really cool with breakfast in bed. Like, I believe that would actually be genius. It'd be a brilliant way to not have to put a lot of expense into setting up for breakfast in the dining hall. You can wait on that to lunch, but have droids bring, if you don't already have some cool apparatus set up in the wall that like delivers breakfast, but you could have droids drop off breakfast. This would be an option, or a cast member, but I think it'd be cool. This would be a spot to do droids. And then you could go to, for day 2, an orientation room part 2, mission briefing, because this could be where the day turns into a bit more of an adventurous, exciting day, because stuff's going to happen. And based on your training the previous day, like, hey, we're entering a war zone, we have to pass through this, we didn't have a choice, whatever. They can create a story, but this could be where things get really awesome, really exciting. And so that very next part of the morning after the mission briefing is you're doing your mission. Whether you're a gunner, starfighter, or assisting on the bridge, you're taking part of the mission. And there could be something else within the ship too. Whether, like if you did an engine room option, maybe you could incorporate some of the other, like the kitchen or something, classroom. Anyways, this would be like that big second day activity that takes you all the way up to lunch, where you're fighting the Empire. I mean, they would have it fighting the First Order. Every time I hear that, I just like, lame. Yeah, Kylo Ren's cool. The new Star Destroyers, I guess they're pretty cool. But just the way they did it, because of how they pulled it off, they didn't pull it off. Yeah, I hear the First Order, and I'm just like, lame. So lame. It should be the Empire. So the whole event, then you have lunch in the dining hall again, and then afternoon activities, just as listed before. They would have that option of going and doing all those activities, and this would be your second lesson for a lot of these things, or your second version of it. And a lot of people, they're going to pick a different activity than they did before, because they've already done, especially with the bridge, the training they had to do with the mission that day. It's like you did the training and then you did the mission. So this would be an opportunity for them to experience something else, so they could take part in that second Jedi meditation class, or that second lightsaber training, whatever, any of those things. This would be where you do it in the second day, and so that would fill the time till dinner. And dinner, again, it could be done on board, or it could have the option, and this would be, again, another thing you set up. And I don't know, maybe, especially if you did like a cantina or a diner earlier, maybe this could be where you could, if Disney wanted to be thrifty, where you have the same place, you just rearrange the set or something, or like you make some adjustments and it looks like a whole new place. And of course, with the whole Star Cruiser experience, taking the shuttle down to it, yeah, you could make a whole new thing. And this could even, I have here a note for Imperial Palace, because it would be cool to do, especially if one of the days you're doing this is an Imperial experience. Then hey, why in the world would you not want to do an Imperial dining experience? Get to elite with the Imperial elite. You can even have Moff Tarkin or Grand Admiral Thrawn. Like, you could do so many neat things there. They could even add in some characters from the books. There's pretty awesome characters there. So then the final day, let's see, there it is. The final day, a couple notes here. There's breakfast in the dining hall. You don't have to do it. You could do a breakfast in bed, but if you wanted to do it as the last hurrah, because this is the final, you could do that. You could have a breakfast that's set up in the dining hall, and this would be kind of like your final bit of this. Well, it could second to last bit of the experience for the immersion, for your enjoying your Star Wars. This is the last thing you're doing in costume, anyways, because right after this would be the clothing issue pickup, and you're turning in your uniform. If you're not taking it home, then this would be where you're turning in. If you did the makeup, then this would be where you get it removed. And so then you'd have the arrival at spaceport and departure. And this would be something, and this is one of the things I had set up here, where you could have a separate thing. And this room, when you go to exit with your luggage, or would you pick up your luggage afterwards? I think here you could take your luggage with. I'm not sure. That would be up to the Disney people to figure out, like, what would be best. Have the luggage with them as you're leaving the ship, or when they exit, do they go to a spot, like a baggage claim to pick up the baggage? So you can figure that out. But this would be another place where this could be a little simulator experience of finalizing the experience, where the ship's landing, and you literally feel the room, the ship lowering as you come to the exit. And this would be where, and that's what I drew on this. This would be where you have an alternate experience or experiences set up for exit. Actually, I have a whole escape pod thing here I do want to talk about, but you could have this whole thing set up where whether you use the same room and just rearrange stuff for each event, or you have several rooms set up, so you have several exits set up depending on where you want the shuttle to land. And that could be something that the Imagineers designs, like, hey, for this first 2-day experience, they're going to land at just a traditional Star Wars spaceport. So this is a nice, clean Galactic Cruiser exit. The second 2-day experience could be an Imperial hangar. So you exit an Imperial hangar. That would be cool. Stormtroopers, all that good stuff. You might even have a couple of Imperial ships that you get to check out as you leave if you wanted to. You could have a Yavin 4 exit. Just set it up to look exactly like that. Hoth, you name it. You could do a few alternates. And again, if it's not something that you could rearrange one room, then you just build 4, 5, 6 different hangar locations. They're all exits. They all, get you to the same location, the same exit. But this is your final, hurrah, the final part of the immersive experience for your departure. And okay, escape pod departure. I think this could be really fun. This would not only include the safety mechanism for the ride, so that if something real world happened, a fire or something, you would still be able to, in immersion experience, escape safely and be able to be taken back to your home planet. So you could have the whole escape pod thing set up. And again, this would be something you go over in the orientation briefing. Like, in the case of an emergency, any emergency, there are no exceptions. If there's a danger, you'll be sent to the escape pods, and you could have a demonstration of the light and the sound that'll play that lets you know this is a real world, this is an emergency. Again, real world emergency. And it should only be used for that. It shouldn't be used for fun. Real world emergency. I mean, you could do it if you wanted the mission to go crazy, but then that would shorten the experience. Never mind. Yeah, this should only be used for real world emergencies, but it's still an immersive experience. So you go to the escape pod, and you can have cast members assigned to each pod. That way they can guide and direct the customers. And you get in, the escape pod has a whole landing, has a simulator ride, and you could even make sure real world that those things are on their own unique system, power generator, backup, whatever, so that people can safely escape. But then they land, and they can land on Earth outside and be rescued. And you could have Disney team, casting characters, ready to go, but they're actually trained and professional, first aid, firefighters, responders, the whole thing. But they could also be in costume. There's no reason Disney couldn't put the money into creating that sort of thing, so that even if something bad happened on the ship and there's a real world emergency, everybody can have a fun, somewhat fun way of escaping and enjoy the experience to the end, so to speak. I think it's a brilliant way to do it anyways, because, hey, things can happen. Things can happen. A fire could happen. I don't know if anything else would really happen. I mean, hopefully you don't have a terrorist trying to blow stuff up. Usually that's real world politics and religion. I don't see that ever happening with theme parks. Has it ever happened? I don't know. I mean, maybe we've had a shooter somewhere. I've never heard of it. Anyways, doesn't matter. Those are my ideas for a Star Wars Galactic cruise. I definitely think my ideas are better than what they gave us. At the very least, and they are welcome to use these ideas, they should implement these and put them into the Starcruiser and make it a lot of fun. I tell you, if I was a Disney executive, or if I was owner of Walt Disney Company, that's what I'd be doing. Stuff like this. But thanks for listening, and have an amazing Star Wars day.